But yeah, in terms of X-Men, like in the MCU, I don't even know if this is a hot take necessarily, but it's a take. I kind of don't want them in this version of the MCU. And the reason why is because I would love for the MCU to just reset, like a hard reset. And the reason why I would want that, I know that's probably never going to happen. And the reason why I would want that is because I would love for the MCU or not the MCU, but whatever the next version of that is, to grow in such a way where the X-Men were always a part of it. You know what I mean? Where we get a new Cap, we get a new Iron Man, and they're just ingrained into what we have already. You know what I mean? So we don't have to so wait, how are they going to bring them in? Well, they were always here. It was like, well, were they though? It was like, where were they when this? And the same question when Eternals came out was, well, where were they? And then it was like, they told us not to do it, so we didn't do it. Did none of y'all disappear? We was here. It was that kind of
We're
thing.
watching this, twirling our thumbs.
Right, exactly. So I would love, and like I said, I know this is very unlikely to happen, especially with a lot of the new actors that just came on, like Shang-Chi, and he's not the actor, but Simu Liu and Iman Vellani and all of them, who I really enjoy. They're not going to cut their contracts just to start over. I wouldn't believe, because they're already really good in their roles. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we'll never get to see Cyclops.
You know what it is?
Captain America.
He wants X-Men in Civil War. That's what he really wants.
Oh,
he wants to see a Civil War movie.
For sure. Absolutely. Now, I don't need them to rehash the same stories and do it again, but there's so many different stories you could tell.
Oh, yeah.
Just with the situation. Like, let's say that I don't know if I want them to do this because we've seen it enough. Let's say that they do Phoenix again, right? How much better could it be with the Avengers having to deal with that too, and stuff like that, and be like, hey, can y'all keep y'all X-Men stuff over there, because y'all keep invading like New York, keep it in Westchester, keep it in the Savage Land. So it's like it's all this other stuff that I think there's like a huge opportunity for them to do. Besides the fact, I already mentioned this, but how are you going to integrate with them in a way that doesn't cause a million questions by fans, other than an incursion, maybe? But
that's actually a really good point.
Going down to the battle world is what's going to happen for X-Men. That's what's going to end up happening. They're going to be the ones there. So as we branch out, this is going to be their chance to have a soft reboot and bring X-Men in. So that's why I think this entire phase we're not going to have X-Men. They're planting the seeds of mutants. They're going to introduce the Fantastic Four, and then they're going to use the Fantastic Four by saying they're intergalactic, and then they're coming back to Earth. So they were already off Earth. That's why they weren't around for all these things.
Right. Which I actually like.
And then they're gonna have Battle World and all the stuff, and then they could branch off from this new. They can use that as Flashpoint type of thing, and they could bring everything back in, and we could start using X-Men like they were always here. I think that's how they're gonna do it.
Which is an idea that I like, because there's a lot of time where the X-Men, where the Fantastic Four just aren't around. So it kind of fits. Like they're just like in some other dimension, making dimensions and stuff like that. It's a bunch of stuff that they probably shouldn't be messing with. But so that's like par for the course for them. So that makes sense. For the X-Men to come, because here's the other reason why I don't like the idea just of ingraining them so late in the game. A big thing about the X-Men is the discrimination that they go through. It's going to be very hard for me to believe that people are going to be discriminatory towards the X-Men when they've been watching the Avengers do things forever. Because a lot of things
after
about
seeing the
mutants specifically, because they don't.
What about Wakanda? See how the world is turning on Wakanda, and Namor specifically with those type of things, and knowing that he's a mutant, and it's almost like they're putting seeds in with those type of things, and that's what's going to kind of turn the world on this hate. Even when we even talk about what happened in Secret Invasion, which was a terrible, terrible thing. I don't even want to bring that word up anymore. But what they did at the end, they still turned everyone against the Skrulls. And they're turning everyone against powerful people. And I think that it's in their mind that they're planting seeds for how they're going to bring the X-Men in.
That's actually a really good point. I think that's dope. I would accept that. I wouldn't fight too much against that. I think the difference is, which was always weird in the comics anyway, that people were specifically discriminatory against mutants. When how can you tell if Spider-Man's a mutant or not? Like it's a very strange dance that they do. Maybe it's because they all call themselves X-Men or X-Force or X something. Maybe that's the thing how you can tell. But other than that, it's kind of like all these people have powers. Why are you targeting these people?
It was all about civil rights movement, and that's what it's hard to recreate that whole thing. And but unless you literally recreate it, well, that's what I'm saying with Wakanda. You literally recreate it, like you put Namor with Wakanda and all that stuff, against everyone, and then they start bringing everyone that everyone's against together, and that's how we get Storm, and that's how they introduced X-Men through Storm.
Yeah, and to continue your point about people not feeling a certain way about mutants like Namor, I think a good way to do that is to have Kamala screw up in some major way very publicly to just continue to drive that notion. So I would be on board with that, and then having her deal with it, even though that's kind of like what Spider-Man just went through, being publicly ridiculed. But everybody's ridiculed once in a while. So
exactly.
Yeah. But I wonder, that's what they might do where like the human passing mutants, because that was kind of the thing like before was like, oh well, you're not ugly, you know what I mean? Like it's like you're not ugly, you're not purple, you're not green, you don't got like tentacles, like you're cool, but as soon as they see Wolverine's claws, they're like, oh wait, hold on,
right.
So what you just said with passing, and we talk about civil rights, that is the
but that's what it was. It was you had the normies, the ones that were human passing were acceptable, but the ones that were had green, had too many arms, too many legs, that were different, they were sent to the sewers, you know what I mean? What were they called?
Morlocks.
The Morlocks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like they could do something like that, but then I feel like that might be a little too much. They're like, oh, these mutants just been hanging out down there for decades, for like how long, so it's like, I feel that'd be too cartoony. It's like, but they need to do something like that where like, you're fine because you're normal enough, so you're passing as a human, but you're not, you're too different, which is what part of what X-Men was, we're like, oh yeah, look, he's fine, but Beast, man, that dude is too hairy,
That's one thing that Bryan Singer, not just Bryan Singer, but a lot of the X-Men directors did well, was they made Mystique out to be that character that was always picked on because she looked different than everybody else.
Yeah. Or back with Wanda. Yeah. And you could still say Wanda, because like she did some messed up stuff, so like how many people found that out, so you can take the bad stuff that these good guys might have done. Hulk was a great example, and stuff like that, and like, hold on, maybe they're not great, but I think the Skrulls thing is really, really gonna do it, because now it's like, oh, you're
anyone
Skrull?
Who doesn't look like me now. Anyone who doesn't look like me, we're going to be totally against. And then they're going to push them, and there's going to be a country that accepts everybody in, right? And that's why I'm saying Wakanda steps in. They're the ones that are going to accept everyone in, and then everyone's already turning on Wakanda. We've seen them plant that seed in Wakanda forever. We saw that what was going on, and that's what Namor even said. Eventually, they're all going to turn on them, and then they're going to come to me. And then so now you got with Namor, you have all Wakanda, you have everything in Africa, being there. This is a perfect time to kind of have X-Men come through.
Yeah. And I like the Battle World idea because it works. Just like, it was like a similar situation of what happened in Multiverse of Madness, where you go somewhere else and there's characters and people there who aren't here yet. I think that just makes sense in a way. So that could definitely work.
And then you could bring because what's going to happen is we're going to have two incursions. What happens is if one world is destroyed, the other one is saved, and the incursion stops, right? So eventually we're going to have the 808? What was it? The 828? Whatever, the one that we visited with Wanda before.
It's like, I think you're right.
So they're going to come in, and we're going to be going against the 666. Like that's what's going to happen,
right?
And I think all those characters are going to end up being part of this whole thing, and then we're going to destroy that world, and then it's going to put everyone on high alert.
Yeah,
and that's what we're going to. And then Doctor Strange is going to have to be introduced then, because he's going to be the one that's going to steal the powers of the Beyonder, which will be Kang too. Which is why we got Kang Dynasty, because I think Kang will be the Beyonder at the same, or have those powers of the Beyonder, because that's where we got sucked into that jewel. All those things is going to work all in the succession. And then when we're done with this Kang verse, we're going to have X-Men. And we're going to kill off a lot of characters, and then X-Men is going to be able to restart it. But we're not going to lose Captain America. I think Captain America is going to be rebooted, and we're going to have a different type of Steve Rogers still. So
that's
a lot of these
way to
characters
do
are going
it,
to happen
for sure.